and coming back to this
あの時間のあと10時から
after the time that from 10 o'clock at night on in Japanese Standard Time means that the evening in Switzerland or in the afternoon in Switzerland. At that time, we'd have the executive meeting, so-called, and such conference was held. So at the conference, the response concerning the Tokyo 2020 were going to be an agenda. So before the conference, that it is necessary to have us on board to receive the consensus together. It was ASEAN conference, however, fortunately, it was Sunday, so that everybody could be available. As President Bach said, individual MCs under IOC and also the athlete relevant parties, sponsors, and the media like yourself that raised the voices concerning the coronavirus contamination, will raise the concern, and also the several announcements made by authorities like in Japan, Mr. Yamaguchi made such announcement. So such announcements have been made. In a certain situation, the working response IOC should take, and IOC should communicate with the NOCs. And that's why they decided to have an urgent executive meeting. And that we are fortunate enough to receive the contact from IOC, so I express my gratitude to Mr. Bach. And that is the background for the research meeting. And, well, myself, together with the journalist also, that we were in the conference, we talked together about that necessary response so that we have to be on the same page as IOC. So that we talked that maybe to this afternoon, we intended to have a conference to talk about the plan already, so it was very on the page as IOC. So that we talked that maybe to this afternoon we intended to have a teleconference to talk about the plan already, so it was very convenient for us to have the conference yesterday. However, IOC was in such a hurry because they would have the executive meeting after that teleconference we had yesterday. So that we were not dragging our feet, because even though there had not been a teleconference, we already intended to have a teleconference at latest this afternoon. So the earlier the better, so that we were so grateful that the IOC took initiatives. Okay, interpreter should talk in a smaller voice. I'm sorry, I forgot what I had talked about. And as a result, we reached agreement as following. First of all, that concerning the cancellation, we never intend to talk about the cancellation. And from now, Japan, IOC, altogether, we select certain members, so that the both of us are going to talk what to do and what we can do through our discussions. And we are going to summarize to reach the conclusion of the discussion we are going to hold. And of course, we don't foresee the postponement from the very beginning. However, the possible postponement is inevitable. So that possible postponement should be included. And Mr. Bach was more careful about their wordings. However, that we cannot evade the discussion, including the possible postponement. And Mr. Bach used the word scenarios. And we intend to scrutinize the various scenarios. And the duration of the consideration is going to be 4 weeks. That's what Mr. Bach said. So within 4 weeks, that we intend to come up with a scenario. So that is the main points we agreed on. And about this matter, the Tokyo 2020, we have to consider the relationship with the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and national government. So soon after completing the midterm conference yesterday, we communicate the Ms. Koike, the governor of Tokyo, about what we have talked about. And also at night, I communicate that Mr. Abe and Mr. Hashimoto and Mr. Hagiuda and Mr. Endo and Mr. Yamashita, presented by JOC, to share what we have talked about with Mr. Bach. Anything I missed? No. Okay. So that's what we have proceeded. And that's all about what happened last night. I suppose that's enough. And that's what happened yesterday. I shared everything. Oh, talking about the Toshirei, the Mr. Bach, and well, the Tokyo 2020 is responsible for Toshirei. So what we are going to do with the Toshirei, that we still have some time before the 26th grand start, that we have 3 days. So we discuss with the relevant parties to come up with the idea what to do. And that's what we told to Mr. Bach. And Mr. Bach said that IOC is going to leave it to Tokyo 2020. In Tokyo 2020, the Prime Minister Abe, well, we used the 3 telephones to discuss with the Prime Minister Abe. And the first telephone call, Mr. Abe said that he is wondering if it is appropriate to attend the meeting, the grandstand on 26th, because that the government recommend to avoid the large-scale event. And in such situation, if Prime Minister Abe, even the Olympic occasion, that attend the grand opening might not be appropriate. So that's what the Prime Minister Abe mentioned. And I responded that we would consider. And at the second call, I made a second call to Mr. Abe. And I told Mr. Abe that considering the situation, we are not in a position to ask you or force you to attend the grand opening. So that we follow your decision. That's what I told Mr. Abe last night. And that's what we intended to tell you at the very beginning of press conference. That's all. Thank you. Thank you. So I would like to receive your questions. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Imai-san, please. Himai from NHK. That I'd like to ask Mr. Mori. First, that including the postponement is that that consideration is going to be made. So as of Tokyo 2020, that are you stay in the idea to aim to the holding the games as scheduled? Well, we have been in this direction, and we had a consensus about this with Mr. Bach of the IOC. However, the situation or the global situation has been drastically changing, and also the coronavirus contamination itself. Well, the Japan made an utmost effort, as well as all the people in Japan made utmost effort. So it was not ceased, but the situation is under control that we consider. However, that nobody can tell what is going to happen, particularly in Americas and in Europe. And there are new areas that we have the tremendously negative situation. We understand that, and also, as I mentioned before, that we receive the ideas and opinions from the various parties. So we are not stupid enough to ignore all this situation to go forward, and that led to the last night conference. Okay, I'm going to ask about the Toshirei. You said that you have 3 days for the more consideration, and at this time, thinking about the possibility of the postponement, is there any possibility to cancel the Toshirei? Well, that is one of the agenda to consider from now. So from now on, having the Mr. Bach playing the central role, we are going to have discussion with the stakeholders. And executive member of Tokyo 2020 also had a meeting this morning. And at the board meeting, there are some voices raised about the possible cancellation of the Toshirei due to the public hygiene. Any other questions? Okay, please. From Fukushima, Fukushima Minyu newspaper. My name is Kuwata. I have a question to Mr. Mori. For now, that 3 days from now, what do you think about the grand opening of the Toshirei? Well, that is what we are going to consult with. So within 3 days, you're going to make a decision whether to cancel or not. Well, that last night that we said that we would have 3 days, so maybe the decision might be made even today, and Mr. Mitchell is in charge of that. Well, 26th, the Toshirei starts in Fukushima, so the plan has not been changed. Well, the proposal from the President Bach was that we don't have any judgment about the conclusion. There's no conclusion or decision made yet. So that within 4 weeks, we intend to have the consideration various scenarios, and that one of the scenarios might be the possible cancellation. So that based on that concept, the grandstand in Fukushima is the matter of conclusion to be carried out as scheduled. But the issue is that the recognition of the coronavirus has been severer and severer day by day basis. So a little bit time before that we announced that the basic concept, the basic principle for that Toshirei, however, that was a judgment or decision made just before the situation turned out to be so serious. So the President Bach mentioned that the IOC would go forward as scheduled. However, concluding the situation, the President Bach that decided to start consideration how to implement. So, consequently, we have never ever considered about the cancellation. So, you are the media from Fukushima, so I dare to mention that the situation is like this. So on 26th, that I'm surely going to Fukushima on 26th. From Kyoto, my name is Hayashi. I hope to ask Mr. Mori, Prime Minister, at the Budget Committee meeting, that Mr. Abe said that he told his idea to Mr. Mori, and that Mr. Mori conveyed my thought to President Bach. That's what Mr. Abe said. So, Mr. Mori has met with Mr. Abe before, and also the stakeholders of the sports-related organization and the companies have been well understood by Mr. Mori, right? So, what was the point you mentioned at the executive committee meeting? And from now, that we can assume that you are going to have the discussion with IOC. So, that as a Tokyo 2020 organizing committee, what is that the important point you have in your mind to communicate with IOC? Well, what I mentioned to Mr. Abe is not shared thoroughly at this moment. I dare to share with you at the very beginning that Mr. Abe, the Prime Minister himself, under such consideration, he also will consider about the responsible parties like Tokyo 2020, and I will see, however, situation is getting worse and worse. And also, as mentioned at the conference with President Trump, that this is a very serious matter. And also, the media announced that there should be the G7 meeting. So, under such circumstances, that Mr. Abe communicate with us means that Mr. Abe would like to have the agreed idea with us, with IOC. It's a matter of course under his responsibility. For example, when the G7 conference is going to be held, that it is inevitable to have the question what the Japan is going to do, and Mr. Abe cannot answer to such questions saying, please ask IOC. So, of course, the Japanese Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee and IOC should be on the same page, and that should be mentioned by the Mr. Prime Minister Abe at such global occasion. Thank you very much. Mr. Hawada, please. The Hawada from Tokyo newspaper. Thank you. And you are going to consider the various scenarios, including the scenario for cancellation, that postponement. And that if you consider the possible postponement scenario, of course, that the postponement is going to incur the additional cost. So the consideration is going to be made from now. However, if you have any forecast about the increased cost in case of the postponement, and such the increased cost is going to be covered by the tax revenue, well, I have to be very careful about that. Very careful when I respond. Well, rather than myself, but Mr. Muto, who is responsible for the finance, is more appropriate to answer. But what I can say is that concerning such a situation, that we need to be very careful about the consideration of the scenario, including the national government, Tokyo Metropolitan government, and the Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee. So I have Mr. Muto. Well, Mr. Mori explained everything what I intend to explain, so nothing to add. So all these elements should be put into consideration spending 4 weeks from now, and that decision was made just yesterday, so that we have not at all planned what we are going to do. Fuji TV, my name is Ichino, so talking about the Toshirei. So for now, you are going to start the ground start on 26th. However, after the starting the Toshirei, after the 4-week discussion and eventually the decision was made to postpone. In that case, what you are going to do with the Toshirei? So please share what you're thinking about now. Well, no decision has been made about the postponement yet, so we don't answer to any questions based on the hypothesis. And hypothetically, if it happens, when it happens, we carefully make a consideration to come up with a reasonable conclusion. New York Times. I'm not good at Japanese, so let me ask you a question in English.
I just wondered if you could tell us.
Talking about the first question, we are Tokyo 2020, so that is the direction for now. This is all we can tell now. And as for the second question, the 4 weeks, the why 4 weeks, please ask Mr. Bach about 4 weeks, because the IOC that mentioned that the consideration should be taken 4 weeks. And that we understood that, okay, the consideration should be carefully made, spending about 1 month. That is my interpretation. The Maeda from Yomiuri newspaper. Well, the announcement of IOC, the consideration is going to be made, including the possible postponement, and the cancellation is not the agenda, and conclusion is going to be made within 4 weeks. I'd like to confirm all these were the proposals made by IOC, and the principal never to consider cancellation. Why does the 20 accept such concept? Well, I can tell this. Before the teleconference, Mr. Sudo and Mr. Court of the Vice President of the IOC had the dialogue about what we would discuss at the teleconference. So, if you think it's necessary, please ask Mr. Sudo. supposedly cancellation is not what the athletes or the other stakeholders hope to have. And I suppose that IOC consider that way. And on our side, no cancellation is not only the idea of the Tokyo 2020, but also the Prime Minister, Mr. Abe, and also the Ms. Koike, the Governor of Tokyo Metropolitan Government. So we totally agreed with the concept of the IOC. So before we make a judgment whether the postponement is possible or not, decide not to have a cancellation is a big decision, I suppose. Well, the postponement or cancellation is absolutely different decisions. So there's no correlation between cancellation and postponement. And whether to do or not is whether to do or not is agenda. As I mentioned before, all the stakeholders never want to have the cancellation. And that was understood by IOC. And also, Mr. Abe, Ms. Koike, and Mr. Mori are saying the same thing, so the IOC made such decision, I suppose.
Stephen Wade from Associated Press. In a time when we're asking for social distancing,
Ishinomaki, the special display was held, and as you pointed out, that we have the number of audience which exceeded what we had expected. And we received the report, and immediately we ordered the cancellation. And, well, about 10 times more people got together than we had expected. And that is one of the evidence of the interest of the residents. So that in a part that we were so delighted. However, the threat of expansion of the coronavirus infection was the first priority for us, so that we made a decision of cancellation. And after cancellation for the several hours, just the passers-by, the display was made, known as the display attract a massive crowd. And based on this experience, we made the advanced countermeasures, so the display of the torch didn't have such mass gathering after that. And based on such experiences, as for the torch array, that we are going to make consideration what to do. I'm sorry, that it was Sendai Station. Sendai Station, the frame display. Yes, that there was a certain mass gathering. Now, how many more have questions? Okay, so those who are raising your hands, so please stay there and please don't raise your hand newly. Okay, my name is Matsujima. I have a question to Mr. Mori. That you mentioned that the selected members of Tokyo 2020 and IOC are going to have discussion about the various scenarios. Postponement. So, who will be the members and what kind of discussion is going to be made? Well, I have nothing to share yet. We haven't made any conclusion, so that is one of the things we consider. And of course, that we are going to select the most appropriate persons.
Thank you, Richard Lloyd Parry.
Well, that is a time span for the possible postponement, right? So, how long postponement is going to be made if the postponement is going to be decided is also the one of the agenda item which we are going to consider. So, to your question, we cannot say yes or no, because as for the possibilities, all possibilities are at our hands now.
Thank you very much.
今ご発表いただいたような内容のお言葉をいただかれたときにどのような感想をお持ちになられましたでしょうか。
最初のご質問は、
Well, in the first question, that the other one asked if it is appropriate to spend 4 weeks. So there was a question raised before. So, well, what we're going to start with, well, before that whether we postpone 1 month, 5 months, 1 year, we need to make a simulation about the various scenarios. And at that time, the availability of the venue, can we borrow the venues? Is there any occupancy already made? So that is the first thing we have to start with. That is the most important thing. And as for the second important thing is that what the cost will be when it happens. So the 4 weeks is a time given by Mr. Buck, and we agreed on this, but honestly speaking, 4 weeks is quite a short to consider all the necessary elements. So because the 33 sports for Olympics and also the sports of the Paralympic Games, we have to make a consideration for all these different sports, and it requires a tremendous amount of time, but we have to be in a hurry to go through this. That's what we think. As for the second question, so my impression about the words of the back, well, up to now, we have the various discussion, negotiation, arrangement, and we were quite sure that we are on the same page. I respect Mr. Bach and we trust Mr. Bach. So that we have been always together, working side by side. So that I consider Mr. Bach is my best friend. Well, from Nishi Nihon newspaper, Shimomura, let me confirm about the 26th. As Mr. Mori said, as talked with Mr. Abe, the Japanese government is still recommending the restrictions, the broad restriction of the large-scale event. But as for the Grand Start, as for the decision made by Tokyo 2020, the Grand Start will not be cancelled. And as for the implementation form, at the previous press conference, you said that the Tokyo 2020 will intend to ban the shelling along the street. It's just a recommendation. Are you still in the same idea? Well, let me answer your question. Yes, national government recommend the restraint the large-scale event. And we're going to have the Grand Start in Fukushima on 26th as scheduled. But the following the instruction given by the government, that we consider how to implement that. And as for the implementation form, well, the situation is getting severer and severer. And that more than 1 week ago, we made an announcement that you mentioned. However, as for now, whether the decision made about the 1 week ago is still appropriate or not is what we revisit based on the situation of the coronavirus pandemic. So currently we are under consideration what to do, so that when we make decision, we are going to announce what we decided as soon as possible. The Hagiwara from Ruben. Well, as you mentioned, as the challenges, you mentioned about the facility, venue, and cost. So for the upcoming discussion, Mr. Mori, if you have any point you would like to share. I don't understand your question. Well, let me reiterate. That in the process of further discussion with IOC, what is the key point you would like to communicate with IOC? Well, as for the hosting city, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and National Government and Tokyo 2020 Organizing Committee and sponsors, there are many stakeholders. And we often receive the complaint that we don't think about the athlete, but that we are struggling because we are thinking about the athlete, because the situation where the athlete raise the voices that we are not considering the athlete, it is not what we intended, because without athlete there's no Olympic Paralympics, and we go forward with this concept. Sasaki from Sankei Sport newspaper. Among the answers you mentioned previously, well, 4 weeks. As Mr. Mori said, the 4 weeks is quite short, and it is quite short to decide everything. But in 4 weeks, what decision should be made? Well, in 4 weeks, do you think that it should be decided whether the postponement is within 2 months or half a year or 1 year? So, how much decision is going to be made within 4 weeks in your consideration now? Well, those things haven't been, well, if those things haven't been made, nothing can be decided, right? Well, let me add. Well, such question is gradually qualified through the upcoming discussion. So we are not judgmental what to do at this point. So 4 weeks, whether it is long or short, many people say the different things, but as Mr. Mori mentioned, there's so many challenges, and on top of that, there are so many stakeholders involved, and such elements should be looked at one by one. And for now, to hold the grand start on the 26th, but we have been worked for 6 long years. So what we have done in 6 long years should be done from the very beginning. Well, the many contracts have been concluded already, and revisiting this concluded contract is not an easy job. So, concerning all this necessary thing to do, we need to do discussion. However, the prolongation of the discussion is not appropriate, and that is considered the reason why Mr. Lux set the time frame for the 4 weeks. So, to the 2020, do our best to keep discussing in 4 weeks to have as much as reasonable conclusion, and we cannot answer whether we can decide anything within 4 weeks or not at this point. The title from Asahi newspaper, in 4 weeks, well, we are going to have discussion between the Tokyo 2020 and IOC, including the various issues. And the last year, October, November, the venue for the marathon and the racework have been changed to Sapporo. And for that decision, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government and the Tokyo 2020 IOC were involved. So, if you have any idea about such decision-making process, I would like you to share. Well, that we haven't made any specific decision because we need to collaborate together. And as soon as possible is the word that we consider when we have the discussion to make any decisions. So listen to all the stakeholders to make decisions through discussion is what we are going to do.
Good afternoon, everyone.
It's quite clear that some national Olympic committees, including the Brazilian one, are not comfortable with this situation and have been suggesting the postponement. How did you receive, for example, the announcement made this morning by the Canadian Olympic Committee saying that they will not allow the athletes to come to Tokyo in July if the games still be held in July, and other committees around the world? How did you receive these statements and announcements? Thank you.
ブラジルのグローバル TV から参りました。私の方から質問がございます。様々各国の NOC の方からですね、この開催に関しては、あまりこの現状は快適ではないと思われていて、かなり延期を要請する声が上がっているかと思います。そのような声をどのように受け止めていらっしゃいますでしょうか。また、今朝、カナダのオリンピック委員会の方が、もし予定通り7月にオリンピック開催になった暁には、カナダのオリンピック委員会としては選手を行かせないというような発表をなさっています。このような発表に関して、どのような受け止め方をなさっていらっしゃいますでしょうか。
Well, individual NOCs, of course, the concern and listen to the athlete voices to make such announcements, and that we receive these voices. And that is very important. We never ever ignore these voices. And just because that those voices have been raised, the IOC made such an announcement in Osho that we, Tokyo 2020, decide to make consideration just because we have been listening to these voices. As I mentioned at the very beginning, not only the MCs, but also the athletes have their own voices, the sponsors have their own voices, and all the stakeholders. So that we take care of the voices we receive from all the stakeholders, and that is a matter of course. My name is Dory. I'd like to ask two questions to Mr. Mori. The first one, that Mr. Bach told you about the consideration of the various scenarios, including the postponement. Was it the first time last night? And that Mr. Mori also that it is necessary to make a simulation. And did you receive any presentation of the possible scenarios? Well, I answered to the second question. No specific scenarios were presented at the meeting last night. Well, yes, it was the very first time that Mr. Bach touched upon the consideration about the various scenarios, including the postponement. Well, the Reuters, my Murakami, the first thing I'd like to ask is, well, the IOC mentioned that the conclusion is going to be made in 4 weeks. However, in Tokyo, the fiscal year ends in the end of March. But the Tokyo 2020, don't you think that the 4 weeks it comes to the April to make a decision is too late? When we consider the fiscal year period. Well, the 4 weeks from now, of course, that we are getting into the April. And I'm not sure that why you mentioned about March. But, well, we don't have any idea to put the timeline restriction about the Japanese situation because the 4 weeks is presented by IOC and that's all.
Thank you for doing this. 2 quick questions, if I may. In this 4-week period, will the organizing committee here in Japan make its recommendation for what should happen, or will it just be providing information and viewpoints to the IOC? And secondly, for Chairman Mori, there's the possibility that the Olympics may be delayed by 1 or even 2 years. How do you feel about doing this job for another 1 or 2 years potentially?
ウォール・ストリート・ジャーナルから2点質問させていただきます。まず1つ目、4週間の検討期間ということですが、この4週間終わった時に東京の組織委員会としては IOC に対して何か提言をされるというところを目途としていらっしゃるんでしょうか。それとも単なる、情報共有あるいは考え方の共有という形で IOC に提示をされるというような意図を持っていらっしゃるんでしょうか。それから2つ目です。これは森会長にお伺いいたします。森会長、もし、可能性として1年延期、2年延期となった場合に、今これまでされてきたその会長のお仕事をさらに1年、さらに2年お続けになることに関してはどのように思われていらっしゃいますか。
Well, talking about the first question, it's better to have Mr. Muto to answer. Well, as for the second question, I think it's an inappropriate question because I'm not sure if I can keep living for 1 or 2 more years. So I cannot say anything about that. Well, the 4 weeks. In the process of 4 weeks consideration, in the end,
ことになるのか。
What is going to be done, whether we are making proposal, whether IOC is going to make proposal, or whether we are going to reach agreement, that we haven't had any clear image about what we are going to do within 4 weeks. So, within the process of 4 weeks discussion, the result or the outcome is naturally generated. Okay, let me conclude the press conference. Thank you very much.